to First Strike here on VSiN. For the next hour, we're going to break down a pretty intriguing main event, that's for certain, here for the big boys. Derrick Lewis against Sergey Spivak here in the main event tomorrow night at Apex here in Las Vegas. To help me do that, Finocchiaro is standing by. I'm going to have Britton Hess join the program once again. And, of course, Dan Vreeland and James Lynch as well here as we get ready post-UFC 281. Don't sleep. We got some big boys back in action tomorrow night here in Sin City. So without further ado, let's bring in Finocchiaro. Of course, you follow him on Twitter as I do at Gambloo. He is the host of the Bout Business Podcast. Lou, I always love catching up with you on a Tuesday as we do First Strike, First Look. Shameless plug. You should always listen to that on a Tuesday as we try to find the better of the numbers. Then you and I catch up, 72 hours later and see maybe where those line movements have gone. Let's get to the main event, my friend, with Derrick Lewis right now. The Black Beast about a plus 170 dog to Spivak, a $2 betting favorite. Any changes in your handicap after you see these big guys weigh in? And these are big men at 263 and 254 pounds, respectively.
Big boys, both weighed in similarly to their last fight, so no big changes there. Derrick, unusually jovial and friendly throughout the whole fight week, which is interesting. I think he's ready to try and perform his best. Spivak, a little bit more sullen, introverted, as a man that knows he has a big job ahead of him.
And Lou, that's interesting, just kind of what you observe at the weigh-ins and kind of a pre-fight leading up to it this week. We got a 10-age gap here, 37 for Lewis and 27 for Spivak. And maybe for Spivak, this feels like, man, main event, potentially 5 rounds. Nobody expects it to go very long. Derrick's been there, done that, fought for the heavyweight championship of the world, right, against the Daniel Cormiers of the world. Do you get that sense of a guy that's been there and another guy trying to prove his worth?
I think that's exactly what it is, Dave. As I look at the heavyweight division, there's about 5 guys in the top tier. Then there's a tier of another 4 or 5 guys, and then there's everybody else. Lewis is on that second tier right at the bottom, and Spivak's at the third tier trying to break through to the top. And so I think that's what this fight signifies. Does Lewis maintain his position, or is there a changing of the guard here? And does the younger, more legitimately versed mixed martial artist get his hand raised here?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. We do expect, if Lewis, his pathway to victory is going to be his hands, right? We know just how powerful he is. He's about a $2 betting underdog to get it done by KO, TK, or DQ. Would you go that route instead of the plus $1.70? Not a big change, but is there any other way that Derrick Lewis gets it done if it's not TKO or KO?
I can't see it. I just can't fathom a decision. The submission would just be highly unusual.
Right.
And so I think if I were to try and consider or get cute with a Lewis wager, it would be a first round Lewis wager. At this age, with his limited toolbox, power only, and limited explosion, I see Derrick Lewis as a 4-minute fighter. And if Spivak can get into the second round in this fight, I think things change dramatically to his favor.
That's a great way to look at this fight here if you want to go with the dog here. But I know that we both like Spivak so far, at least we did earlier in the week. Are you staying there? And do you think the over-under right now, just a round and a half for a potential 5-round fight? Again, nobody expects us to go deep into the Vegas night. How do you handicap that total here? And do you think Spivak could get it done sooner than later?
I think Spivak can get it done, but I think it takes him later than sooner. I think the beast is early, and then if you get to that second round, now the beast is gassed. And so how long will it take Spivak after the second round? That's anybody's guess. I tend to lean over in that 1.5 proposition, Dave.
And you can find some good value too, to your point here. Spivak, KO, TKO, or DQ plus $1.40 instead of laying that $2 price tag, because again, yes, 3-1 that he could get a sub on Derrick Lewis, but it just feels, I'm picking up exactly what you're putting down, where you could see a gas Derrick Lewis if he doesn't get him out of there early. You get into the second, potentially a third round here, and maybe that's where Spivak could take this fight over. So I think it's a very smart way to handicap it. Let's stay with the big boys here, and Chase Sherman here, who is, I wonder if he's a live dog in this one against Waldo Cortez Acosta here. What do you make of Chase? And we know, again, that maybe utilize some leg kicks could be a pathway to victory for the big heavyweight, plus $1.90 on the underdog. Is he a live dog in your estimation?
Sherman, I'm going to regard him as one, yes, and he has to have done his homework. He and his camp. He's been very inconsistent, but he struggles mostly with grapplers, wrestlers, guys like like Romanov that was able to press him against the fence and get him down. No threat from the boxer Acosta doing that to him. This is going to be a stand-up fight. And we know that Waldo just got off a fight 2 weeks ago, a fight in which he incurred pretty good bottom leg damage from Bandera. As well, he went to decision, with Bandera. And when Chase Sherman fought Bandera, if you want that math, he finished him. I think provided this stays on the feet, Sherman has every chance to win this fight. And I think at plus 135 or thereabouts, he's a great consideration.
And you see the total here, 1.5, potentially 3-round fight here, juiced to the over, minus $1.50. Sherman by KO, TK, or DQ is plus $4. To go the decision and get that victory is $5. Do you not want to get tricky with method of victory with Chase and just stay with the solid plus price tag as an underdog?
Yeah, I need to rely on the KISS typology here, Dave, and that is keep it simple, stupid, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I've been burned on that one too, trying to get too cute with that method of victory. You got a nice plus juicy number there if you like Chase Sherman. Maybe not try to figure out if it's KO or if it's via sub or decision. Let's get to another fight that you like. And you and I talked about it again on Tuesday, and I think we both regard this fight with Muslim Sulikov here against Andre Fialho, that maybe this could be sneaky fight of the night potential. It's got a really good feel to it. What do you make of this fight? And I know you have an angle that you like that maybe it doesn't go the distance.
Yeah, I mean, these are two power strikers, and the difference between the two is one is well-rounded and one is well younger, well more explosive, but has very little durability. And the younger one, as I analogized on the digital, is Fialho, clearly 10 years younger, longer, taller, faster, more explosive, no durability and no wrestling whatsoever. So provided this stays on the feet, he's going to go out there and definitely have an advantage on the feet. Salikov is much more measured in his striking, though he's a power-based striker. He also has great grappling. He'll have to use it in this fight. He went to AT&T to train with a bunch of killers to prepare for this. Fialho steps in after really never fighting a wrestler. When he did in his last fight, that wrestler stood up and knocked him out. And so I think Fialho's in a very delicate position here. His 5th fight this year in 2022, and a guy that I would tell you that if this fight gets into the second round, I think Salikov's chances are dynamic. Ooh. However, the first round, Salikov is going to have to weather a serious storm. Salikov inside the distance plus 250. That's where I'm going with this fight.
Very intriguing. And it's got a very similar feel to your handicap with Sergey Spivak against Derrick Lewis in the main event, that if you can weather the early storm and tire him out, you go a little bit distance here with the wrestler here, and Salikov could be to his advantage to get out of that first round and see if the gas tank on Andre dips just a little bit. I just want to ask you something, Luke, because I know you do this in the Bout Business podcast and certainly here on the network as a VSiN Pro subscriber. When you see a line, say the biggest one of the night, right, with Jack Della Maddalena against Danny Roberts, you got over a $6 betting favorite. We don't want to get in the habit of laying those big numbers in case the upset occurs. How do you handicap some of those fights? Is it either stay away for you completely or look for other methods of victory?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you for asking, because quite honestly, I'm tracking Maddalena's opening minus 335. He's minus 610. That's double. That's stupid. That's not right. That said, there are some durability issues on the other side with his opponent, Clark. So the way I would attack this is I believe that Clark, though may not be a real in contention to win this fight. I think his durability is greater than what they're giving credit for. For me, this fight to hit round 2 is minus 150 or so, or the over. I think that's where I would steer listeners to go to try and catch a cleaner price on a fight that I think will be more competitive than people think. But that said, I do regard Madalena as the legitimate favorite that's more than likely going to win via finish. I just think it's going to take well over a round.
Yeah, so maybe not take the big price tag on Danny Roberts at plus 470. To your point, Lou, see if that hits over, and still plus money there, plus $1.15. So I'm picking up what you're putting down. Very quickly, have about a minute to go here. Tell the people what they get on the Bout Business podcast each and every Friday. And also, if you have one other fight on the card very quickly that you still find value in here about 24 hours removed.
They're going to get 16 minutes of my final fight releases for the week. It's very simple and easy. And as far as a going away gift, I would tell you that my best bet is the first fight on the card, the young lady Silva. I think her experience, her maturity, she's 25 against a debuting fighter that's 20. I think it's going to be way too much. And I think at minus 165, that's a value. She should be well higher than that.
All right, Natalia Silva, I like that. Get off on a good foot here with a small price of laying $1.65. Hey, Lou, appreciate you as always, my friend. Enjoy the fights this weekend, and we're off next week, so happy early Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Thanks so much, Dave. Good luck, everybody.
There he is, everybody, the best in the biz, Lou Finocchiaro. You can follow him on Twitter at Gambloo and check out that Bout Business podcast. When we come back, a real treat. Britton Hess in studio next, right here. It's First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you plenty of ways to bet on the UFC. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You're going to be able to bet on more than just the main event. DraftKings has great odds on fight lines, total rounds, and futures for all MMA events. Eligibility restrictions to apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for the full terms and conditions. We roll on to this edition of First Strike here on VSiN. What a pleasure it is to have Britton Hess back in studio. Britton, I always love to get Britton's bombs here on the show, but I know you're younger than I. You don't have kids yet, right?
No.
Do you feel like a proud papa when you see Matt Santos and Rob Moreno now taking over the helm of what we started here at First Strike?
Oh, yeah. I think we built a good ship, and it's out at sea, and they just need to keep steering it in the right direction.
They're doing great. You did great. It's great to have your insight on this card. Let's get to the main event, because just had Lou Finocchiaro on. We were talking, obviously, about Derrick Lewis against Sergey Spivak. Spivak about a $2 betting favorite. The Beast is a very popular fighter, obviously, in MMA, plus $1.70 right now. This is not in Houston. He does not seem to fare well in Houston. It is a smaller octagon out here at Apex, which you would think is what Derrick Lewis wants. I know that we're all on the side of Spivak, if I can speak for me, you, and Lou, but is there danger in this smaller octagon, at least in the first 5 minutes?
There always is with Lewis. I mean, I don't know how people sign up to fight him, and they just know that, like, all right, I just need to avoid the flurry, and then I've got a shot to win this thing. If he lands once, I lose, but as long as I cannot get his clean KO shot, I'm probably going to wear him out. And I think that's what Spivak's game plan has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Spivak is a legitimate, top 5, really good fighter. Maybe one day, he's still pretty young in his late 20s, one day have a title bout. I mean, a couple fights ago, he lost to Tom Aspinall, and people are like, oh, yeah, he's not of that top tier. But that was also like a short notice fight. He took that like the week of the fight.
And Aspinall is legit.
Yeah, and Aspinall's legit. And I think that fight, too, it was pretty out, because I was kind of thinking, oh, if Spivak's got a shot, he's better. People don't understand how good he is. Mm-hmm. Pretty quick, once that fight started, like, oh, he's just taking the paycheck for this one. And he lost it, but, I think he survived to live another day, and he's won his last 2 fights via KO. And I think we can actually learn a little bit from those last 2 fights and how he's going to approach this one, because those were Greg Hardy and Augusto Sakai, 2 big power punchers, who don't necessarily have great gas tanks, which is Derrick Lewis's MO, although Derrick Lewis has the most KOs in this division's history, so it's a little bit of a different animal. But that said, Spivak can learn from those fights.
Well, Britton, it's interesting, because when you look at Derrick Lewis, what you said, I think, rings true. Most fighters go, if I can avoid the right hand specifically, of Derrick Lewis here, make him chase me around the octagon, and Derrick's going to chase you around he's going to slowly, methodically move around the octagon. Does it lend itself maybe towards an over 1.5? If you're on the side of Spivak to say, don't wade into territory here in that first round. Figure out a way, by hell or high water, to keep this on the outside for 5 minutes, and then the gas tank naturally for Lewis will come down.
Yeah, well, I think that Spivak is going to know that he doesn't need to, the longer it goes, it's more in his favor.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to be in a rush in the beginning. I think that, honestly, the pressure at the start of the fight is all going to be on Lewis. And it's like, Lewis, like I said, it's hard to fade Lewis. I do like Spivak. I do like him via KO, probably TKO on the ground. But I will say that, it's hard to fade Lewis because you just know he's one punch away pretty much the whole time. But at the same time, like, you look at the styles of fights that Lewis has been in lately. He KO'd Dawkins, right? Dawkins has probably the fastest hands in the heavyweight division, or at least he's top 3 to 5. And he wanted to showcase that in box with Derrick Lewis. It's obviously not a good idea because if you're exchanging, you hit 2, Lewis hits 1, you go down. I don't think Spivak's going to try that, so I think that he will be patient, try to make Lewis chase him, try to wear Lewis out, and then once we get into the second round, I think that he might try to take him down, and probably not going to be a true American-style wrestling double leg, but it would more likely be through the clinch, a trip, some Greco-Roman throw, or something like that. But yeah, I'm kind of with you. Is that it's hard to fade Lewis because he's the best. Everyone loves him. He's the funniest guy on social media,
Right.
Most fun fighter to watch. But I just don't necessarily see his path clearly here.
Yeah, plus an hour 40 here for Spivak to get that finish, and I am starting to lean towards the over 1.5 in kind of a correlated fight diagram, right? That Spivak tires out Lewis a little bit, at least gets this thing in the second round. Then he can take more chances offensively. Even if you give up the first round, it's a 5-round fight potentially. That's not going to hurt you at all, right? You're just looking to get this thing a little bit deeper so that maybe the power surges by Lewis are less frequent.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we look at, obviously, Cyril Gane is a totally different animal than Sergey Spivak, but that fight, Gane was just like, okay, if I don't let him hit me and I pepper him here and there, eventually he's going to go down, and it's exactly what happened. Again, Spivak's not that type of fighter, but I think the idea of, don't let him do what he wants to do, and he wants to do one thing. So there's basically one thing you got to worry about. You don't have to worry about takedown. You don't have to worry about clinches. You just have to worry about not seeing his right hand coming over the top.
That's it. So again, if you're on the Lewis side, people, probably the best value is $2 KO, TKO, or DQ. Can't see him winning a decision, and the sub is 28 to 1. So even though it's plus $1.70, it actually would be more prudent if you're on the Lewis side, which we are not, to take him 2 to 1 to get the KO, TKO, or DQ victory. That would seem to be the smarter way to go.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis just really, he's been in the UFC this long because he's not a decision fighter.
That's
you know what I mean? It's just not his MO. I mean, I'm going to look back. His last decision win was against Ilir Latifi in 2020, but Ilir Latifi is a kind of a weird person to try to square up on, considering
Kind
he's
of a blown-up light heavyweight, too.
Yeah, exactly. And so
let's get to the co-main event here, because I am very interested in Kennedy Nzechukwu against Ian Cutelaba. Cutelaba's a madman. I don't know how else you describe him in the octagon. That's kind of what he does. So you're expecting chaos here in this co-main event. Cutelaba now is plus $1.50 here. Kennedy's minus $1.75. So I look at the size and the reach advantages that Nzechukwu has. Look at this. 6'5" versus 6'1", 83 inches versus 70. It's 8-inch reach advantage. Is it as simple as Nzechukwu keeps him away by distance in the jab, and he might be able to get a knockout victory?
Yeah, I mean, in the small octagon, Nzechukwu's jab is basically going to keep you on the opposite side wall, opposite side edge of the bench. Yeah, I think that Ian Cutelaba is just, his fight style is exciting, but it's not necessarily good for his long-term prospects of staying a pro fighter.
Right.
I mean, he's had some brutal KO victories and losses, but more recently we've seen the losses. I mean, he got KO'd by Johnny Walker in his last time, or not KO'd, submitted, which was a little bit unexpected because we thought that was going to end in a KO. But I think that, I just think that Nzechukwu he's not the highest. He doesn't have the most diverse skill set.
No.
He's not going to wow you with some crazy spinning back kick or anything like that. He's got a jab that can keep you across the cage from him.
You know what's coming, right?
And he's got power. I mean, look at when he fought Carlos Ulberg a couple of years back. He's durable. So Ian Cutelaba thinks he's going to be able to KO him. Good luck, because I mean, we've seen Ulberg's power in the last few fights.
Oh man,
and that didn't take down Nzechukwu. So I just think Ian Cutelaba, he eats too many shots trying to get in. And he's already going to be up against it just due to the severe reach disadvantage.
I'm with you there too, and because Nzechukwu got a chin, right? So Cutelaba could be another guy that can tire. We're throwing wild shots, right? It's gonna be wild, at least in the first 5. The over-under right now is set at 1.5 here for a potential 3-round fight. Not juiced terribly to the over at minus $1.30. Is this one that goes quicker, or do you think we could get deep into that second round?
I mean, I would if I had to choose, I would lean to the under just because Kutalaba is like, let's go right now, here, right now.
Yep.
I'm going out on my shield. I don't necessarily love it because maybe there's a chance that he's learned from his mistakes in the past, so maybe he'll be a little bit slower. And sometimes we see these fights where it's too exciting, KO fighters, and now we're gonna watch him dance around the octagon for 15 minutes.
Right.
But I do believe that I think Nchukwu is rightly favored here, and I would lean to him getting the KO on Kutalaba. Just like I said, his head movement's not good enough. He eats too many shots to try to get one.
Got a couple more minutes to go here with Britton Hess, MMA handicapper here at VSiN, and one of the starters of this fine program that we're watching today. Let's talk a little bit about a fight deeper on the card that I think could really be sneaky good. That's Charles Johnson against Zaga Zumagulov here. Zumagulov is an underdog at plus $1.45 against Johnson, minus $1.70 here. I feel like Zumagulov is live. Am I on the wrong side here? The number's coming down a little bit to a plus $1.40, so Johnson, some of the money going against him here during the week.
No, I mean, Zumagulov is a guy that just keeps coming.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He's lost 4 UFC fights. 3 of them are decision. 1 was a split decision most recently. He got KO'd by Mantle Cape, but, I don't necessarily know if Charles Johnson is going to have the power of Cape did, or that Cape did. So, I mean, I think that he's definitely live. I think that this fight is probably going to come to the judges' scorecards. But Zumagulov, yeah, I mean, he's an exciting fighter, but some of his physical disadvantages just due to size kind of make it tough for him to stand out in the division.
When Johnson's 5'9" and Zumagulov is 5'4".
Yeah, exactly.
It's so...
but no, I think he's definitely live. I don't love him in this situation. I think Charles Johnson's also very good.
Yep.
Going the distance against Mohamed Mokaev is not any small task.
No.
Because that guy's a wild man and elite in a lot of different aspects of the game.
And that's why you can see it juiced heavily over 2.5 rounds to minus 250. So right now we are expecting that one, to your point, Britton, to hit the card. So the fight to go the distance, you want to shave a little bit off that to go the extra 2.5 minutes. That's minus $2. But I'm picking up what you're putting down there. Got about a minute to go. Britton's bomb. You got anything that you like this week in this card?
I mean, I think that just a single play would be Spivak via KO.
Yep.
If you wanted to get really kind of crazy, you could go Nchukwu KO, Spivak KO,
Parlay
Waldo
that.
Cortez Acosta KO, plus 662, 3-leg KO
Whoa.
parlay. I mean, it's the most square thing you could ever say because everyone's like, oh, yeah, UFC people get knocked out all the time. We know that actually that's not true.
No.
But sometimes fights are set up for action, and I feel like we've got a couple of them today or this weekend that are set up perfectly for they got the favorites to deliver.
And again, at Apex, smaller octagon, you can't run. So it might even lean more that way. Britton, it's great to see you, man.
You as well.
Thanks for being on with us. Appreciate it. Britton Hess, everybody. You can follow him on Twitter as I do, at Britton Hess. When we come back, Dan Vreeland joins the program next. It is First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We are back, First Strike here on VSiN. Dave Ross in Las Vegas. Always a pleasure to catch up with Dan Vreeland right now. He is, of course, at Sports Gambling Podcast, Cage Side Press, and host of Top Turtle Podcast, MMA Gambling Podcast. Follow him on Twitter as I do, at Gumby Vreeland. Dan, you are such a busy man. I appreciate you taking time to join us here on First Strike. I want to get to this card and talk about one of the ladies' fights that we have not discussed yet so far on the show. Miraz against Maya here. And right now, Jennifer Maya is a solid dog here, and Moroz right now is minus $1.90. What do you make of this potential 3-round fight? Maya on the comeback is plus $1.60.
I really like Marina Miraz in this fight. I actually even don't mind paying the $1.90 price here because from what I've seen of Marina Miraz in her development lately is, first of all, she's always been a really phenomenal striker. She's always been good from range. She picks her shot. She's not running out there trying to finish anybody anytime soon. So she's a great point fighter when it comes down to it. And she's added this added wrestling that has really given her a second dimension. She absolutely went out there and demolished Maria Agapova last time out and made Maria Agapova look kind of silly. And the best part about it is she did it mostly with her wrestling, not even necessarily with her jiu-jitsu, but with her wrestling. And against Jennifer Maya, first of all, I think she's going to be the way faster striker, the way quicker striker, the way sharper striker. And at the end of the day, I now think her wrestling is probably surpassed Maya. Sure, Maya might have a little bit more in the jiu-jitsu department. Maya might be a little bit more dangerous on the mat. But if it never goes there, there's no reason to be dangerous there, right? So I really think Maya is just going to pick her apart from the outside. You're going to see $1.90, I think, look very, very easy and like a very safe play come fight night.
Dan, here's what's interesting to me when I look at the pathways to victory. If you like Miraz in this one, to win via finish is plus 350. Now, we're expecting in most of the women's fights have a tendency to hit the cards. By decision, minus $1.05. Would you go that route, or do you think there's danger that she might get a sub, which is priced at plus 450?
I actually am not too worried about the submission here with Miraz. Like against a different opponent, sure, maybe. Like she does go for the finish when it hits the mat, as we saw with Agapova. But against Maya is adept at grappling defense. Like I'm not real worried about Maya giving up a silly submission. Maybe if she got like really tired or worn out from the pace that Miraz does set, because Miraz does set a pretty decent pace too. If she sets a big pace and kind of tires her out. But I think you're right here. $1.90. I think is already a good price if you wanted to make it a little better. I think the decision prop is probably the right one here.
Yeah, but I'm with you. Sometimes the bigger numbers, I know people get scared of laying almost $2 price tag here, but it safeguards you if you think she's going to be as dominant as you do, Dan, and I agree with you. Sometimes that's just a safer way to go, and there's actually still value even at minus $1.90. I don't know if there's any value left here when you look at Jack Della Maddalena against Danny Roberts. This number has just ballooned out of proportion here. But I think you've got another way to handicap this fight to maybe shorten that minus 610 odds down. How do you think that Maddalena is going to get this thing done?
Yeah, well, first of all, minus 610 is a crazy number.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I love Jack Della Maddalena. I was big on him going into the Contender Series. I had seen him a little bit on the Australian regional scene, and I knew this guy was a big deal. But at the end of the day, yeah, negative 610 against, maybe the best guy he's ever fought is certainly not a way that you want to go into this fight. So I do like him on the knockout prop here, though. It is negative 200, which seems like a lot to lay on a knockout prop. But the guy's coming off a back-to-back knockout in the UFC against, the last one was against Ramazan Amiev, who is not an easy dude to finish. And he finished him with a liver shot in the first round. Danny Roberts is a guy who likes to go in there. He likes to sling it a little bit. It's the perfect kind of showcase opponent for Jack Della Maddalena. So I think that the KO price is probably aptly priced here. But if you're trying to get some skin in the game on Jack Della Maddalena, and I get it, people definitely want to get in on him, that's probably the way I would do it.
And again, Dan's being humble here. He got the better of the number at minus $1.75 earlier in the week before this prop has ballooned up to $2. So very smart and astute on your point here. I do want to get to the main event because you look at Derrick Lewis and we know that the beast has got hands, right? I mean, that's just what he does. He can be tired. I remember the Volkov fight and he looks like he's down and out, and all of a sudden, boy, he just turns things around with one big punch, and then he can finish in the blink of an eye. It feels like the only way he can beat Spivak in this main event is by KO. Is that the way you see it too for Derrick Lewis?
100%. Yeah. And it's almost silly to me that there is such a difference in his money line and his KO line, right? Because you're seeing his money line, I see plus 170 here. I've seen his KO line in the like plus 230 to 250 range, and it's angled down a little bit here and there. But at that point, why are you getting so much of a difference between the two? The dude doesn't win by decision. He doesn't win by decision ever. So even if you're getting, plus 200 instead of plus 170, it's clearly the play to make. And, for this fight, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm leaning towards Derrick Lewis in this fight. I like him by knockout. I think he's going to beat Sergey Spivak. When the fight was announced, I was like, oh, yeah, no, another showcase fight for a young up-and-comer in Spivak. Derrick Lewis is clearly on the downward trend. But you go back and you watch some of Sergey Spivak's fights, and yes, he's got good grappling. He's got suffocating grappling. But Derrick Lewis is hard to hold down. Also, in order to get to that suffocating grappling, he's got to get close to you. And the way that he gets close to you is a lot of body locks and stuff like that. And if you take like the Greg Hardy fight, and I think we can all agree, Greg Hardy, not a good heavyweight, not a good heavyweight at all. He got hit by Derrick Lewis or Greg Hardy a couple of times on the way in, trying to get that body lock and trying to get to the grappling. That's not a good sign for fighting somebody like Derrick Lewis, who hits, first of all, way harder than Greg Hardy. Second of all, is much more technical than Greg Hardy and is better at getting back up when he's tired than Greg Hardy. Not to mention, I think people underestimate how tough Derrick Lewis is deep into a fight. He fought Alexander Volkov for 15 minutes, got his clock cleaned in that whole fight, and knocked him out with 50 seconds left. So, like, with all of that being said, when is Spivak safe here unless he finishes Derrick Lewis? And, the people who have finished Derrick Lewis are people who finish him with punches. Nobody's really sub Derrick Lewis. So, like, if you think Sergey Spivak's going to go out there and knock him out, I mean, like, sure. But otherwise, he's going to have to spend 25 minutes in there with some really dangerous hands.
I mean, Dan, you nailed it. I mean, there's so much danger with Derrick Lewis at every turn, even when it looks like there isn't danger. I remember the Curtis Blades fight like it was yesterday. He was dominating Derrick Lewis, much like Volkov, and then the uppercut from hell, and that fight's over. I mean, that's what happens sometimes when guys, for a second, take either the foot off the gas, think that Derrick Lewis is spent. To your point, he seems to have great recuperative power. So if you don't get him out of there, there's going to be danger lurking. I can't imagine it goes all 25, but boy, there could be danger a little bit later than earlier. Your Kennedy and Nchekwu play is fascinating to me against Ian Cutelaba because you like this one, not with the hands, but maybe via sub. What do you see happening here?
Yeah, and I know that this one sounds crazy because Kennedy and Nchekwu has not submitted anybody. He's submitted no people. So for me to go out on a limb here and say he's going to submit Ian Cutelaba, I know I'm going out on a crazy limb. And obviously the price comes in crazy, right? It's 12-1 is when I originally saw it. I don't know what it's at now. But, like in the 12-1 range, 10-1 range. And the reason I think there's value on that is if you look at Kennedy's last fight, he went out there and transformed his grappling. He went out there and took Carl Roberson down 5 times. He was damn near in on a couple of rear naked chokes, and he wound up finishing with the punches. But his grappling is really advanced. Now you take Ian Cutelaba, a guy who's going to get in tie-ups into the clinch, who's going to go for it, and he's been submitted in back-to-back fights, countering his own wrestling. And the funny thing about that, too, is one of those submissions is against Kennedy and Nchekwu's teammate, Ryan Spann, who, granted, a lot better at submissions, but a guy who's got knowledge is in his camp on how to submit Ian Cutelaba. So, at 10-1, 12-1, it's a stab in the dark. But if you've got a little bit of pizza money sitting on the side, it's certainly worth the play.
I'm not saying that you're moving numbers, but you got it at 12-1. It's down to 10-1. So I'm picking what's up.
People know.
I see what you're doing here, Dan. Very quickly, got a couple minutes to go. Andre Fialho against Muslim Salikov could be a very intriguing fight. I know Salikov is the older fighter by 10 years. Are you going with the youth movement here with Fialho?
I am, but mostly this is for me. First of all, I like the number Fialho is at -105. He was actually a little bit higher earlier in the week, and I thought he was going to go up, and it turns out he went the other direction. But -105 is a good spot for him, I think, because it's kind of a fade of Salikov. If you watched his last fight, he looks like he's losing a step or two. He looks like he's getting slower. He looks like he's getting more tired. And he's a guy who, despite the fact that he's got one of those scary Russian-sounding names, he not one who shoots a lot of takedowns. So he's going to be on the feet with Fialho. And Fialho is really dangerous with his hands. I think people underestimate how hard that dude hits. So, if Salikov is going to stand on the feet and try to outpoint him or try to knock him out, I really don't like Salikov's chances of that. And, even if he were to wrestle, Fialho's got some pretty good defense from there and some pretty good escapes from the bottom. So, yeah, I like Fialho on the money line here.
45 seconds to go. Can I sneak one more in here? Because I'm intrigued by this Vince Morales, Miles John fight. This could be sneaky, really competitive fight here, John. But a -1.70 favorite. Do you have a lean either way in this fight?
So I lead Miles Johns. The part that scares me away from this fight a little bit is that his price has gotten so high.
Yeah.
It posted a little bit lower, and it's because he was a late replacement. I do think he's the much better fighter than Miles John, but he's also a very big guy for that weight class. So the fact that he's going to have to cut down, and he made weight on short notice, I really think that could possibly play in, and like you said, make it a little bit more competitive.
All right. Dan, great stuff as always, my friend. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the fights this Saturday. We'll catch up again soon. There he is, everybody. Dan Vreeland. Follow him on Twitter as I do at Gumby Vreeland. When we come back, James Lynch next here to round out First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Start your mornings with VSiN's newest podcast, VSiN Daily Morning Bets. Josh Applebaum gets you ready and gives you every piece of info you need to be ready for betting the day's biggest games in just 15 minutes. He discusses line movements, injuries, and what you need to be looking at before you make those wagers. So make the VSiN Daily Morning Bets podcast part of your morning routine. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Back here in First Strike, Dave Ross in Las Vegas. Always great to go north of the border and catch up with James Lynch, MMA journalist for MMA News and Sportskeeda MMA. Follow him on Twitter as I do at Lynch on Sports. James, first of all, great to have you here. It's Thanksgiving week for us. There's no UFC card next week, so we all get the week off. In Canada, do you do it like we do in the United States for Thanksgiving, or is it very different?
Not even close. I'm so jealous you guys get to celebrate American Thanksgiving the way you do. It's a much bigger deal. You know, you guys take like a couple days off, you eat a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Thanksgiving's like a weekend for us. It's in October of all times as well. So yeah, it's nothing close to what you guys have. Like I said, super jealous.
You know, it is. It's an excuse for us here in America to get fat for the weekend. We just eat and shove our faces with pumpkin pie. Let's get to this card a little bit, James, because I am very intrigued to your thoughts on it. I look at the main event, and we've talked a lot about it here throughout the show. We're going to talk about it more because it is intriguing for many different reasons. It feels like Derrick Lewis's only pathway to victory is by KO. Now, Spivak, we know, will probably want to be leery early in this fight, see if he can get into the gas tank, but certainly that KO prop is there for him as well. Is there an angle to this fight that you think might be the safest for a potential 5-round main event that I don't think anybody thinks is going all 5 rounds?
Yeah, I think the under is the play here. And I know you're not getting great value on it. It's like, I think around minus 240 around there, but you can parlay that with something else on the card, like a Jack Della Maddalena, something along those lines. But I do worry that this is a case where, I mean, all the indication looks that Derrick Lewis is on the decline and this is a fight he's going to get finished. And that most likely will happen, I think, on Saturday. But there is that worry in the back of my head that Lewis has got one more shot in him and he knocks out Spivak. So rather than worrying about who's going to get the finish or taking the fight doesn't go the distance prop, which is much higher, I would rather go the under 2.5. I think that's the way to go in this fight. Just because if you're Spivak, you're probably looking at Lewis's last couple fights and seeing that he's been finished early. I think that's the way you go for it in this one. But just in case, Lewis could potentially finish this fight early too.
James, would you be inclined, if you you're going to go the safer route of 2.5 rounds over that $2 price tag? You look at the 1.5 round prop. Now, again, it's a 5-round potential main event. You normally don't see them priced like this. When you have the under to minus $1.20 for a round and a half, would you consider playing both in case this is a wild first round?
Yeah, absolutely. And then maybe you look at the fight starts round 2 prop as well. You could get a little creative with this, but I really do think we're going to see an early finish. It's the question is when exactly is that going to happen? But like I said, I do worry that, you know, a lot of these people I know betting the Spivak inside the distance and then only to see Derrick Lewis get the knockout. That's kind of where I'm a little bit worried, but I do think Spivak will likely win. But just to play it safe, you could do the under in the 1.5 or under 2.5. I think that's probably your best bet.
And I know people don't like to, you know, kind of take the easy way out, if you will. But if we are pretty much certain that could be KO either way, there's still plus money on both fighters. Derrick Lewis is $2 betting underdog to get it by KO, TK, or DQ. Spivak is plus $1.40. So yes, you're not going to make a huge profit, but you would lock in profit theoretically if you just took both of those plus price tag props.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. You can sort of, manage your bankroll accordingly, your unit sizes, and you can end up profiting. I've done this for a lot of events, actually, especially with some of the results we've had recently. If you get a little bit creative, it can work in your favor. All
right. So maybe there are some different ways to approach that main event that James is certainly giving those options for. Let's get to Andre Fialho against Muslim Salikov here. Salikov is 10 years his senior, and Fialho right now, about minus $1.05 I'm seeing here. Very even priced fight here. Is there another way that you like to handicap this one?
Yeah, so I'm on the Fialho side here. He even admitted this week in the lead up to the fight that he overlooked his opponent Jake Matthews. It was a terrible performance against when he fought Jake Matthews. But typically we've seen Fialho knock out his opponents, and he's fighting a guy who's coming out off a knockout loss, who's also getting close to 40. I like the Fialho by knockout prop. You're getting that about plus 140 around there. I know some books even have Fialho as the underdog as well, but I think if Fialho is going to win, it's going to be by knockout. This guy hits like a truck. He's fighting a guy, like I said, a little bit older who has not fought that much. I think there's some serious value there with the Fialho by knockout prop to take that.
Plus $1.75 if you think Andre can get it done with the hands, as James does. They don't have a prop. They should. We should talk to Dana White about having fight of the night prop, right? Because there are a couple on here that certainly could be in the running for that. Maybe the co-main event is one of those that would be up for it. Kennedy and Nchekwu against Ian Cutelaba. We know how crazy Cutelaba can be with his hands. I wonder if Kennedy is going to be more of a disciplined fighter in this fight and try to wear him down a little bit. How do you see the co-main event going here? Nchekwu right now, minus $1.75 betting favorite.
Yeah, I really like Kenny Ncheku in this spot. I think the UFC does as well. That's why they're giving him this co-main event treatment. Look, Ian Cutelaba, you can look at the level of opposition he's fought. It's really actually impressive, but he's just so inconsistent. It's not even just the fact that he's losing to these guys. It's the way he's losing. He's losing in sort of dominant fashion here. So I think Ncheku's the safe bet here. He's got a height and reach advantage. I think this is a very big opportunity for him to get up in the rankings. The UFC was very high on him early on. Had a few missteps, but I think on Saturday he will come out on top, probably inside the distance, probably by knockout, actually.
Plus $1.20 if you like Ncheku to get it done with the hands there. Very interesting, too. The sub price has come down to 10-1. He has shown the ability recently to go down to the ground as well, but I'm with you on the Ncheku side. Feels like the right side to be on, that's for sure. I want to get to some more heavyweights, and Chase Sherman is not normally a guy that's going to excite the masses that much when he's out there. I don't know if he's fodder right now out there for the young undefeated fighter and Waldo Cortez Acosta here, but Sherman right now is plus $1.90 and Acosta is minus 225. Any danger here? Because sometimes you look at why is this fight being made, and I think the UFC would like to see the 31-year-old beat the 32-year-old on his ascent up the ladder.
Well, and you look at who's undefeated and who isn't. Chase Sherman is on his, I think, third UFC stint. This is very obvious. They're trying to build up Waldo a lot. I know they really liked him when he came over from, obviously from the regional scene. Mm-hmm. He's a guy, and just think of the turnaround as well. He just fought not that long ago against Jared Vanderaa, getting a nice win in his UFC debut. I like him a lot in this fight. This is a tricky one because Sherman is one of those guys that is very inconsistent, and you do tend to fade him, but he also has surprised at times too. One play I do like actually in this fight that I think is possible is Waldo by decision. You're getting plus money on that. I could see this fight going the distance, similar to what happened in the Jared Vanderaa fight with Waldo as well in his last fight. Sherman does get finished a lot, but you look at who he's getting finished by. Romanov, some really talented guys in the weight class. I don't know if Waldo's at that point yet, but I do like Waldo in this fight. But I'm going to take a little sprinkle on the Waldo by decision prop.
I'm with you there too. It's one of the plays that I like on this card is the over. Now it is juiced a little bit, minus $1.50 to over a round and a half, just because Sherman, when he's engaged, right, as long as he's engaged in that first round, he can be a tough out. And again, we talked about it, maybe utilizing some of those leg kicks against Acosta to drag this fight on a little bit as the veteran, even though he's only 1 year older, so much more ring experience in there. You would think he might be able to push it a little bit and get this into that second round. So I really like where your head's at there. When I look at the Zumagala fight against Charles Johnson here, this is a very intriguing bout to me. And right now you can look at Zumagulov plus $1.45 against Johnson minus $1.70. Is this a live dog scenario? And the betting market is showing it. Zumagulov right now down to plus $1.40, a small move on him.
Yeah, this is a tricky one because you look at who Zumagulov's losing to. Jeff Molina, one of the hottest prospects in the weight class. Manel Kopp, who's knocking out everyone in that weight class. He's fought far better competition than Charles Johnson is. The problem is, I think we can't get a good read on Johnson's UFC debut because he fought a guy in Muhammad Mokaev who's probably one of the best wrestlers and grapplers in the weight class. So, and he didn't get finished in that fight. He actually sort of held his own over the affair there. I can see the angle of taking Zumagulov just based off the fact that he's got more overall cage experience and all that, but I am high on Charles Johnson too, and I actually think Johnson will win this. I think maybe the play here might be the fight goes the distance. These two guys are extremely durable. I don't see a situation where there's going to be a finish, so that might be the play if you want to, again, play it safe on this card.
And if it goes the distance, you don't want to pick a winner, minus $2 there. And I see that. I think that seems like a quote-unquote safer play for two guys who are pretty evenly matched inside that octagon. Let's get to Maia against Miraz here because Jennifer right now is the betting underdog. About plus $1.80 is what I'm seeing on the comeback here. What do you make of this very intriguing fight here for Maia, now 34? And Miraz really feels like she's coming into her own here at 31 years of age.
I think the line's off here. I like Jennifer Maia. Ooh. You look at, again, who Jennifer Maia has fought. She's coming off a loss to one of the highly ranked fighters in the weight class in Caitlin Chukagian. Actually, sorry, Manon Fior she lost to, I should mention. Manon, though, defeated Caitlin Chukagian. Yeah, kind of what I'm getting at is that, we're only a couple fights removed from Jennifer Maia fighting Valentina Shevchenko in a pretty good fight. In fact, I think you could argue that she won the second round of that fight against Valentina. I don't get it here. I understand that Moroz is younger, and that win over Maria Agapova, her former teammate, was very impressive. But I like Maia here. I like her by decision even better. That's typically how she wins her fights here. I think at 34, I don't think she's on the decline as much as people think. I think she's going to win a decision here and surprise some people.
Very quickly, 20 seconds. Vanessa Demopoulos is back in this card. If she wins and Joe Rogan's there, he's going to want Joe Rogan to pick her up. Minus $1.10 against Oliveira here. Who do you like in this fight?
Yeah, I'm on the Demopoulos side. I think she goes out there, surprises some people, and keeps that winning her winning ways going.
A young 34 is what she feels like. Hey, James, you can celebrate Thanksgiving up there with us Americans down here this weekend. We appreciate your time and insight as always.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
There he is, James Lynch, everybody. Hey, really appreciate everybody that watches and listens to this program each and every week. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll see you after the holiday right here, First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Thanks for watching First Strike. Of course, subscribe on YouTube, and we always have First Strike First Look for you each and every Tuesday as we give you the best of the numbers before we get to First Strike each and every Friday. So download on iHeart, Apple, or your favorite podcast. Thanks for watching First Strike on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.